The first thing I noticed wasn't the offer. It was the way her hands trembled when she said it. Mrs. Alden had always carried herself like someone who refused to bend, even when life clearly tried to break her. She was the kind of woman who still wore pressed cardigans in a building, where most people barely bothered with clean laundry. The kind who kept fresh flowers in the hallway even when no one ever thanked her for it. So when she stood in my doorway that evening, eyes tired, voice softer than I'd ever heard it, and said, "I can cut your rent in half. If you can give me 10 minutes every night," something inside me shifted. Not suspicion, not fear, just confusion. 10 minutes? I asked, leaning against the door frame, unsure if I'd heard her right. She nodded, her fingers tightening around the strap of her purse. "That's all? Just 10 minutes, nothing more." There was a pause, one of those heavy silences that fills the space between two people when neither quite knows how to explain themselves. I studied her face. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't even hopeful. If anything, she looked like she was bracing herself for rejection. And that's when I realized, whatever she was asking for, it wasn't easy for her to ask. "What kind of 10 minutes?" I said carefully. Her eyes flickered up to meet mine, and for just a second, I saw something raw there. Not manipulation, not anything inappropriate. Loneliness. "Just sit with me," she said. "Talk, or don't. We can watch TV, drink tea. It doesn't matter. I just don't want to be alone at night." The words landed heavier than anything else she could have said, because suddenly the offer didn't feel strange anymore. It felt sad. I moved into that building 6 months earlier, fresh off losing a job I thought I'd retire from. Life had unraveled quickly after that. Savings drained. Relationships strained, confidence shaken. The apartment wasn't much, but it was affordable. And Mrs. Alden had been one of the few landlords willing to take a chance on someone with an unstable income. She'd never been overly friendly, but she was fair, quiet, observant. Looking back, I realized I'd never once seen her with anyone. No family visits, no friends stopping by. Just her, the flowers in the hallway, and the faint glow of her TV through her curtains every night. "I can't accept that," I said at first, shaking my head. "You don't need to lower my rent for something like that." "I want to," she replied gently. "It's not charity. It's an exchange." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, like even she didn't fully believe it. I hesitated. 10 minutes. That was all she was asking for. And somehow it felt like she was offering more than she was receiving. "Okay," I said finally. 10 minutes. For the first time since she'd arrived, her shoulders relaxed. "Thank you," she whispered. The first night, I knocked on her door at exactly 8 p.m. She opened it almost immediately, like she'd been standing there waiting. "Right on time," she said, a faint smile appearing. Her apartment was warmer than mine, softer. It smelled faintly of chamomile and something baked. Like a memory you couldn't quite place. "Tea?" she asked. "Sure." We sat across from each other at a small table, cups between us, the ticking of a wall clock filling the quiet. "So," I said after a moment, "what do we talk about?" She gave a small shrug. "Anything." We started simple, where I was from. What I used to do? What she used to do? That last question lingered longer than the others. "I was a nurse," she said. "For 32 years. That's a long time." "It feels longer now," she admitted, staring into her tea. There was something in her tone that made me not ask anything else. "Not yet." The 10 minutes passed quickly. Too quickly. When I stood to leave, she didn't try to stop me. She just nodded and said good night. But as I stepped into the hallway, I realized something strange. I felt lighter. The nights turned into a routine. 8 p.m. sharp. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. Some nights we watched old movies, black and white ones she insisted were better than anything made now. Other nights she told stories, small ones at first, harmless ones, about difficult patients, funny co-workers, long shifts that blurred into each other. And slowly, almost without me noticing, the stories changed. They got quieter, heavier, more personal. "There was a man once," she said one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. "Came in alone. No family, no visitors. He used to ask me to stay a few minutes after my shift. I leaned back in my chair, listening. What did he want? I asked. Nothing, she said. That's the thing. He just didn't want to die alone. The room fell silent. And did he? I asked softly. She nodded. I held his hand, she said. For 10 minutes. Something tightened in my chest. 10 minutes. That night, I didn't leave when the clock hit 8:10. I stayed. Not because of the rent, not because of any agreement, but because suddenly those 10 minutes didn't feel like a favor. They felt like something sacred. A few weeks later, I noticed something off. She moved slower, paused more often between sentences. Her hands trembled more than usual. You okay? I asked one night. Just tired, she said quickly. Too quickly. I didn't push, but I started paying closer attention. The truth came out by accident. A pill bottle left on the counter, a hospital name I recognized, a diagnosis I didn't need explained. She tried to brush it off when I asked, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew. She'd known for a while. How long? I asked quietly. She gave a small, tired smile. Long enough to know I don't have as much time as I'd like. The words settled between us, heavy and unavoidable. Why didn't you tell me? I said. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since we'd met. Because I didn't want pity, she said. I just wanted company. That night, I stayed longer than ever before. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. The next evening, I showed up early. She raised an eyebrow when she opened the door. You're 5 minutes ahead of schedule, she said. Guess you're getting a bonus, I replied. She laughed. A real laugh. And for a moment, she didn't look tired at all. The 10 minutes stopped being 10 minutes. They became 20, 30, an hour, sometimes more. We talked about everything. Regrets, dreams, the strange ways life twists when you least expect it. And one night, as the clock ticked quietly in the background, she said something that stayed with me. Do you know what people regret most? She asked. What? Not the big mistakes, she said. Those you remember. You learn from them. It's the small things, the moments you didn't show up, the calls you didn't make, the time you thought you had. I swallowed hard. I'm here now, I said. She smiled. I know. The night everything changed, she didn't answer the door right away. I knocked again, a little harder this time. Mrs. Alden? Nothing. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I reached for the handle. Unlocked. I stepped inside. She was in her chair by the window, eyes closed. The faint glow of the TV flickering across her face. For a second, I thought. Then she spoke. You're late, she murmured. Relief hit me so hard I had to laugh. I'm 2 minutes early, I said. Feels late, she replied, her voice weak but teasing. I walked over and sat beside her. No table, no tea, just quiet. I was thinking, she said after a moment, about that man. The one from the hospital? She nodded. I used to think I was helping him, she said. But now I realize he was helping me too. I didn't say anything. 10 minutes, she whispered. It's such a small thing, but it can mean everything to someone. I reached out and gently took her hand. It was warm, frail, real. I'm not going anywhere, I said. She squeezed my hand just slightly. I know, she said. She passed away 3 nights later. Not alone. At the small memorial service, there weren't many people. A few former co-workers, a distant relative, and me. I stood there, listening to stories about the woman I thought I'd come to know. Strong, kind, dedicated. But none of them talked about the quiet nights, the tea, the 10 minutes, because those were ours. A week later, I received a letter. Inside was a simple note. Thank you for giving me what I asked for, and more than I deserved. M.A. There was also something else. A revised lease agreement. The rent permanently reduced. Not just for me. For the next tenant, too. At the bottom, in her careful handwriting, she'd added one final line. 10 minutes can change a life. Don't forget that. I didn't. I still don't. Because every now and then, when the world feels a little too loud or a little too empty, I remember those nights. The quiet. The presence. The simple act of showing up. Sometimes, the most intimate thing you can give someone isn't love. It isn't money. It isn't even words. It's time. Just 10 minutes. and the willingness to stay